Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Food, Wine, and Whiskey. I am Rob, joined by
Carter.
How you doing, Carter?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm really good because I'm looking at two glasses. I've nosed two glasses.
Both pretty good, aren't they?
Man, I mean, really good. But looking forward to a fun conversation. Looking forward to sipping these two glasses and kind of doing a little comparison here.
Yeah, I guess like at first we'll just kind of tell what we're sipping on, what we're drinking here. And so some people who follow the show probably know we're big Four Roses fans. Rob and I actually helped a liquor store, Ryan's Liquor, pick a Four Roses barrel last year. We picked a OESF RS79-40 or 40, I think is what it is. But anyway, that was to us the best that we had of the bunch.
Clearly the best.
But there were a couple others that were on the list that were also pretty good. So I've been able to acquire a OESV that was on our list. It is a PN8-6, so it is a 6 tier rather than...
Was that a barrel we had to pick from and we passed on it?
This is of the run.
Okay, of the run.
But this is a higher tier.
Yeah.
So this is a tier 6 rather than I think what was on the list was either a tier 3 or 4, something like that. Okay. So maybe a little bit more of it's going to be a difference, but I thought it'd be fun just to kind of compare.
I was just going to be like, I hate to drink this now and go, how the hell did we pass on that?
Yeah.
But that's not going to be the case because we didn't drink what's in this bottle.
We didn't, but I wanted to kind of I guess perception is that tier 6s are great, and I remember us really liking this run, so I said,
let's find out.
Okay, let me get a tier 6 of this run and see what the best can be of this run.
Yeah.
So, and then we've got our picks right next to it to give a comparison, see
OESF.
If we maybe like our pick better than this pick, but I can tell you by the nose, I like the OESV quite a lot.
You know, the OESV?
Yeah.
Both aged 10 years, 5 months. So July of 2021, and ours was September of 2021. So very similar in age. As far as when they went in the barrel, they had the same seasons, so kind of the same cycles they were aging in. So let's see. I mean, one difference. Nope. I'm thinking we had a B. We have an E. So they're both 20% rye.
Yeah.
One is 124.2 proof. That's the OESV. Ours is 119 for the OESF.
Slightly lower proof.
A little bit. I don't think that's so much that it's noticeable.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll get into that a little bit during the show, but I think we wanted, in general, the topic of the show is...
It's just a conversation about why we think, you should cook, drink, and hang out at home. There's absolutely a place for going out to dinner. I mean, there's times where, you and the family are tired, you get home, whatever, you want to go out, have somebody else take care of you. But to me, the standard should be, if I want to hang out with a group of friends, my first thought is not to go, where can we get a reservation to go to dinner and have some drinks? That's not my first thought.
Not mine either.
Mine is, let me invite some people over, and what can I cook so we can all have a great time, eat some food, drink some drink, and hang out.
Yeah, and I'd also say, personally, my situation now, I have a newborn. Going out to eat is not really... Currently, she's very young, so it's not really a thing for me right now. So I'm definitely cooking at home more than I was previously. So, yeah, and to your point, I think that having guests over, if you want to just do it big, right? And definitely if you want to do it big on a budget, having guests over, having like a bunch of food, bunch of great drinks, it's just, it's just a better experience. The one negative I will say, because I do love going out to eat.
Cleaning up?
That's it. That is it.
If you're hosting,
if you're the host, cleanup sucks.
Yeah.
Generally speaking,
I typically have a practice of clean as you go.
Yeah,
so as
same
I'm prepping
too.
and getting
Same
stuff,
here.
and that's a big part of it too. Is if you're hosting and you're cooking, prep. Do as much up front the day before, a day or two before,
Absolutely,
as you can, hours before your guests arrive. So things that you can do, do it. But to me, being at home for a variety of reasons, and we're going to get into them, is just the best way to hang out with friends, enjoy good food, and share good pours of either wine, bourbon, other whiskeys, whatever it might be.
Cocktails,
Sure.
you name it. You can do so much. One thing I'd like to talk about, kind of just to crack off this conversation a little bit, is that I actually know people who legitimately do not know how to cook. And they say they do not know how to cook.
Okay, let me ask you this. Are they into wine and bourbon spirits?
Yeah.
That shocks me a little bit because, to me, more wine driven. If you're into wine, I feel like you're going to be into food to some degree. They kind of go hand in hand.
They kind of do, and I would assume the same thing, but I do know some people who are like this.
Really?
So my thing is, I've asked the question, why? And the answer is like, well, I've never really learned it. I've never taken the time to learn it, that kind of thing. It's a little intimidating. And to me, I'd say about cooking, it does not have to be intimidating. In fact, it's a lot less intimidating these days than it was when I was growing up. I can say that. And part of the reason is there are so many resources out there.
Number one being?
I say YouTube.
Absolutely.
I
Ding,
say
ding,
YouTube.
ding. Hit the nail on the head. And the reason is, in my opinion, in the old days, when we were growing up,
Yeah.
it was a cookbook. It was a recipe
Yeah.
that you were following. And so you saw ingredients, but you didn't really see technique.
Yeah.
And on YouTube, you get to see people's technique, how
yeah.
they're mixing it, what they're putting, just whatever. The technique matters. And when you can kind of follow that on YouTube, I think it's my favorite thing to watch and learn from.
It's hard to explain a technique in a book.
Yeah.
And my progression of cooking. So my parents were always, my dad particularly was he cooked a lot. And part of the reason I wanted to get into cooking is because my granddad, my dad, my grandmother, they're all into cooking, and I perceived it as being a very cool thing to do, and I wanted to be included. So I wanted to learn how to cook early. But I also liked a lot of, when I was a kid, I liked watching cooking shows. Now they didn't really, Food Network kind of came out.
Julia Childs?
Julia Child was there for sure.
Yeah. Emma Lagasse?
Emerald, Jeff Smith, even the
PBS guys.
Yeah. Even the Great Chefs, Great Cities. They would go to the
I never saw that.
high-end restaurants and
really?
things like that, and follow chefs around. And then there was a guy. Golly, he was a Cajun cooking guy that was on. I just can't remember.
There was an Asian guy for a long time on PBS that was really good.
Well, I think Ming Tsai actually was on. He's on the new Iron Chef, which is kind of cool.
Really?
But Ming Tsai was pretty early. I think he had the show East Meets West, which was before Food Network.
I do want to give a lot of credit to the Food Network.
Oh yeah,
I think
sure.
What they've done, what they did, it's the reason I got into inside cooking. For the longest time, younger and newly married with my wife, I love to smoke or the guy term, grill out. I could do some chicken or burgers or something like that on the grill, some pork chops, steaks. But, kind of that refined cooking coming indoors where it was more technique and more precision, in what you were doing. A lot of it came from the Food Network and watching.
Yeah.
I remember Guy's Big Bite on every Sunday was the show I would record DVR when DVRs were first out. And I can remember coming home from church and going, I got to watch Guy's Big Bite, and see what he cooked today. And then there was always recipe available at foodnetwork.com and it's like, okay, I got to go print that out.
So, and I think Food Network did a lot for making food cool. Like,
Great point. Yep.
you know, like you think now, like, I mean, if you think about restaurants and chefs and YouTube and Food Network and everything like that, I mean, people think that's cool these days. You
Yeah.
know, oh, you're a chef at this particular restaurant that's like badass. You know, oh my gosh, you know, that's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know that like when I was growing up, like cooking was
Woman's work.
cool. Yeah,
Is that a little?
maybe. I don't see. I grew up in the South though, where men cooked a lot. That was
See, I thought you were going to tell me where men didn't cook, where women
No.
were baking and cooking and doing things.
no. I mean, not at all. Like
Okay, I grew up in the Midwest, where the ladies cooked the dinner.
Yeah. So my dad cooked. My grandfather cooked. Both of my grandfathers cooked. Like, and
Now,
I think
when we say cooked, let's think about a typical week, Monday through Friday.
okay.
Dinners at night. Who's making that meal?
My dad.
Really?
My dad was.
See, I thought that was a very new thing because I was going to bring up the point that it shifted. I think back in the day, it was thought that the lady did the weekday cooking. You know, you got to live, you got to survive kind of meals. And then on the weekends, that's when you got dad out there, you know, flipping burgers or making steaks or something.
My mom cooked some. She did. She cooked some, but she was more of a basic type of cook. My dad truly enjoys cooking.
Okay.
Like, and so did my grandfathers.
And that's where
Yeah.
I am. You know, I do all the cooking weekday, weekend, and
But I think
not because I have to. Sandra would, but I love to.
So I grew up in Mobile, Alabama, which, you know, the culture of, I'd say, like New Orleans bleeds really into that area. And I do think that men in Louisiana do a lot more cooking than probably other parts of maybe the South. I don't know that for a fact. I'm probably speaking a little bit out of my butt. But anyway, it was a thing. It was absolutely a thing. And you know, I always wanted to get in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like, I just thought it was cool, you know?
Well, and I think just cooking at home, you know, I don't know if it appeals to people, all the people listening. There's some of the people, and maybe you've just been intimidated about, can I do this? You really can. I mean, it's not hard. Yeah, I'll interject, and I was going to do that to you a second ago, and I was like, I can't keep interrupting.
Yeah.
But this OESV is kicking the crap out of our OESF on the nose. I mean, just
have you put it on the palate yet?
Not yet, but the nose is just a beautiful thing. I mean, I'm getting a little too much ethanol on ours. It's kind of.
I'm getting a little bit more earthy notes on the nose on ours.
I just can't leave my nose in as long as I'd like to.
It's more vegetal, is what I would say, and it's good, but in a different kind of way. And then you kind of get like that spearmint type of thing going on, which some people perceive as really bad. I like it.
The V is beautiful.
It is just amazing, isn't it?
Wow.
That's like honey and cherries.
Cherry,
and
big time.
dark notes and, you know.
Richness,
you know. That's just amazing.
But I think if you have any interest at all in cooking, get in and start cooking. You know, cook at home for a variety of reasons. One, I think for me, it's somewhat therapeutic. I enjoy my time in the kitchen. I enjoy being able to come home and prep and cook, and I do it while I have a little something in the glass. You know, typically a bourbon,
of course,
while I'm cooking. But there's also a sense of pride and accomplishment when you cook a meal and either your family or your friends go, dude, that was really good. I mean, it's just kind of nice to make something and somebody go, you did a good job. That tastes really good.
Well, you know, I think growing up, like, I always wanted to get my elders respect, you know,
Sure.
and if I got into the kitchen and cooked something for them, you know, and they were very appreciative of that and complimentary of that I felt good about myself, you know. But, you know, nowadays I find cooking to be like, gosh, one of the more relaxing experiences I have in life.
Exactly.
You know, I'll get into the kitchen and I'm like, man, all right, I'm blocking off a chunk of time. I want to do this and
throw a little music on or
Oh,
a show in the
yeah.
background, a sports game on, and just
hell yeah. I love that. I love that. A movie going on, one that you've watched already that
Sure.
you just like to have in the background. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
One of my favorite experiences, I think we've talked about this before, one of my favorite experiences is prepping for either Christmas or Thanksgiving and having like the holiday movies on in the background and that kind of stuff. That is so much fun, man.
absolutely drinking like Winston Churchill.
Yeah. I don't know if I could keep up with that at all, but yeah, that's the kind of stuff that is just really, it gets you jazzed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe that doesn't appeal to you, but if you're listening to the show, I have a feeling it might.
But the reason I would say, cooking at home is important. One, the things we just talked about. When we talk about hanging out with your friends, why you should cook at home, versus going to a restaurant. And again, I'm not dogging restaurants. They have a great place. But, restaurants are in business to turn tables.
Sure.
The more people they can have sit at that table through the course of the evening, the better for that restaurant and good for them. So that means they want you to come in, order your food, eat your food, and get the hell out. And I'm fine with that. I get that. When we have a get-together with friends, I don't want to be rushed. I don't want to go to a restaurant and be done in an hour and a half. I want it to be an evening. And so when you do it at home, you're able to, prep and cook, and you get to enjoy that meal and take absolutely as long as you want to before you serve dinner, depending on what time you want to tell people to start arriving, and then after the meal to hang out, visit. Typically, we see girls go one way, boys go the other way. Maybe we go out back and have a cigar, but it just opens up the night. You don't feel like you've got to, get out of the restaurant and then it's like, well, where do you want to go? You want to go to a bar? You want to,
Yeah.
And this just makes for an evening.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, I am not knocking restaurants. There's some of my favorite restaurants in town. It's almost like that experience, if I go to like a Ginger and Fork, it's I might be there an hour and a half or something like that.
There are a handful that you can do that at. Make a later reservation is usually better.
Yeah, that's always nice. And when it comes to restaurants, I'd say try and form a relationship with the managers or the owners and that kind of stuff.
And if you're buying drinks, they're a little more tolerant of you hanging around. Let's be honest.
No doubt. But applicable to this conversation, I kind of want to go back to the complicated part about cooking.
Yeah.
I'm at the point in my cooking journey where I like to make almost all of the individual components of a meal. If I'm making like if a pasta, I want to make the pasta. I want to make the sauce. I don't want to buy anything pre-made for the most part. That doesn't mean you have to do that. Like that you're just at that.
But you should. I'm only saying that because there's some elements of a dish that are just better when you take an extra 20, 30 minutes to make that element, whether it be a sauce or buying potatoes and making mashed potatoes, not buying Bob Evans and things like that.
I'll agree with you there, but you don't have to do everything to make it good. No. And that's just,
I agree.
For instance, I really like this guy's YouTube, Josh Wiseman, like awesome guy. Joshua Wiseman. But anyway, he did a lasagna, I think a lasagna where he made his own pasta and did it, like this way. And then he did one where he boiled the noodles, and everything, and made it a little bit more simple, that kind of thing. And I guess my point is you can make something that tastes good where you're not having to make your own pasta or bread.
Well, but okay. In general, totally agree with you. 100% agree with you. But I will say, I'm kind of being a dork here. There's some pastas that are made with a dry pasta, and there's some pastas that are better with a fresh egg pasta. To me, lasagna is a dry pasta. I don't want it to be fresh pasta with my lasagna.
Well, some people would differ with you there.
I know. So I'm going to say I agree with you. dry pasta, why? Look, pasta in general is a process to make. So when you start talking about pastas, I'm perfectly fine always buying your pasta. Making it's pretty cool. It's kind of fun it's not that hard. People again are going to be a little intimidated going, making pasta, that's hard. It's really not that hard. But from a time standpoint, if you're hosting an evening, there's nothing wrong with buying. And you know what? You can buy fresh pasta nowadays.
Yeah, you can.
So there's an option with that as well. Quality ingredients is more what I would say matters more than is it fresh or dry or, that kind of stuff. I don't know.
Generally speaking, this little tidbit, little informational section here. The lighter the pasta that's dry, the better the pasta. If it's really yellow, that is a lesser quality pasta.
I like that. Good tip right there.
So just for the people.
Yeah.
Just for the people here.
Sharing knowledge.
Yeah. But like an example, right? You can have just like make badass sandwiches. Maybe you made the pastrami. Maybe you made the roast beef, or you did like a pot roast type sandwich or something like whatever the case may be. I would much rather have my wife's sourdough bread, but you can go to a grocery store and get pretty good artisan bread, or you could go to a bakery and get pretty good artisan bread. Would it be more fun for me to make my own bread too? Sure. But you don't necessarily have to do that, is all I'm saying.
Whatever your time allows, whatever you feel up to doing, my point for the conversation would be more to steer people to hosting things at their house versus always trying to plan something with friends to go, do you all want to go out to dinner?
Yeah.
Because to your point, you made a great point. Hosting a dinner doesn't mean you have to cook this, 3-course meal or 4-course meal that needs to be, very elegant and upper,
Yeah.
It can be, to your point, let's do sandwich night. Let's do gourmet burger night out back.
Yeah.
It can be as simple as that. And it's still a lot more fun doing that at your house than in hosting an event like that than to me, and this is just my opinion, than going out and trying to get to a place and get done. And then what are we going to do? Another, I'm just a huge fan of being social at home.
Sure. And I totally get that. And one thing I'd also mention is that in prepping, particularly for like a larger group, like a 4 or 6 people, 6 people or more, I would say, use meal prep as much as you possibly can, meaning like anything that you can prepare in advance to put into the refrigerator, dishes like that don't require like specific timing, that can be your friend.
It's absolutely your friend. Yeah.
It's fun to cook a really like, precision type meal or like cook souffles and stuff like that, but that's more of a you and your wife, you and your partner type deal. That's more of a small.
There's a certain lane you want to stay in for cooking for a crowd, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and like I use the philosophy like the you can slow cooking braised items, things like that. That's your friend.
You know what else is your friend when you talk about that? The sous vide.
Sous vide. I was going to point that out as well. If you want to cook a bunch of steaks. Put it in the sous vide. Boom. You
can stay for hours.
You can stay for hours, and
won't overcook.
And then you focus on the sides.
Yeah.
And then so your main is kind of covered.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the strategy I go when I'm cooking for a group. It's like, okay, what is something I can cook that is delicious? Number one, but something that I can set it and forget it a little bit. I just think
absolutely.
I think it's a good strategy.
And there's other ways to go. What I also like about home cooking is you could say, look, I'm going to cook the protein, whatever it is, steaks or whatever it is, and I'm going to ask my guests to fill in around with sides, or you could ask them to bring the appetizers and the desserts while you make the meal.
Right.
I mean, so getting people to contribute is perfectly fine. And most people want to contribute. They're coming to your house for a dinner. They want to, throw something into the evening. So there's nothing, think about it that way too. And when you start looking at, for me, cost per person to do a dinner like that, it's typically way less than going out to a meal somewhere.
Oh, yeah. I would say this too. Asking a friend to bring a side, asking a friend to bring an appetizer, asking people to bring wine or something like that, there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yep.
I mean, like, you don't want it to be so burdensome on yourself to cook that meal to where you can have zero fun and everybody else has all the fun.
Yep.
Like that's not a good party.
Here's another tip for, in my opinion, for hosting these kind of things. We've kind of touched on it, but to say it directly, plan your meal for something that can be pretty much done and ready within 30 minutes of your guests arriving.
Yeah.
So that you're not spending all your time trying to cook while your guests are at your place hanging out and, sharing the evening.
Yeah. Or on the flip side, have it already ready to go, and it's only going to take an hour or so to cook it. Like, basically everything's ready to just push into the oven, and that's it. And that way you can have some time enjoying drinks and that kind of thing. And then when the food's ready, it's like, oh, okay, we're ready to eat now. And all you do is pull it out of the oven or the smoker or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, examples of that, you mentioned steaks. Steaks are easy, especially if you're using a sous vide.
Yeah.
If you're not going to do a sous vide, a kind of variation of that would be a reverse sear, which still works very well and frees up your time. Mashed potatoes can be done early. A veggie cooks pretty quick. And, these are but to me, Italian food is one that you can feed a lot of people.
Sure.
And it's not that hard. Whatever call it the sauce or the meat or whatever's going to go on the pasta can typically be done earlier in the day, if not a day or two before. Same with the lasagna. And you can make that lasagna, have it all ready to go, and all you're doing is throwing it in the oven for an hour and a half, whatever it is.
I think lasagna is the ultimate.
It's the greatest. So things like that can be, it's almost harder to cook hamburgers and hot dogs than it is to cook what we're describing with lasagna and steak.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to me, we've done this many times. Lasagna and a salad. I mean, you don't really need anything else.
No.
You could have some appetizers if you want or something to munch on, but, that you don't need much else.
No, you really don't. Now, let's transition. So cooking at home is a must.
Yeah.
If you're into cooking at all, starting to cook and host at home, to me, there's nothing better than it with your friends and people you like to hang out with.
Let me mention one quick thing before, and it kind of goes on the you don't have to make this huge investment to cook at home.
That's a great point.
As
far as equipment and things like that.
TV shows like Food Network and all this kind of stuff, they have huge, they've got stand mixers and they've got, sous vides, and we were mentioning sous vide, and I think it's a good investment in getting one. But they have all kind of kitchen gadgets and things like that. You don't necessarily have to have all that to get started. So, a story that I'll mention here. When I first moved to Houston back a long time ago, I won't say, I didn't have much money, but I still really like to cook. I mean, I couldn't afford a stand mixer. So, if I ever wanted to, make a meringue or make a whipped cream from Heavy Whipping Cream, I'd beat it by hand.
I was going to say something there, but I'll pass.
Yeah, well, I had to do that quite a bit.
I'm sure you were pretty good.
Yeah.
But you had that meringue done in about 30 seconds.
But I'm just saying, you could use a whisk.
Absolutely.
Just a basic whisk to make some of these things. You don't have to have a $300 KitchenAid.
It's a little more work. Same with dough. You want to make a bread, you can make it in hand. You can knead the dough. I mean, a mixer is really nice, but you bring up a great point. Even pots and pans. You don't need 50 different pots and pans. You need a couple of saucepans, maybe a 10-inch, 12-inch skillets, and that's really about it. You need maybe one kind of, I mean, a wok to me is something that comes in very handy, not just for Asian food, but for frying and some other things you want to do.
Yeah.
But other than that,
other than that, you don't really need much.
and you can go to, TJ Maxx or Marshall's and get decent stuff. You can go to a Sam's or a Costco, and they typically have, Calphalon or however you say that brand.
Yeah.
Where you can buy a whole set for $100 and some bucks, so you're not like breaking the bank to get into it.
Or on the flip, you could be like me. I just bought a huge 13-piece set of Alclad.
So humble brag.
But when you get into cooking, you might get to that point where you're just like, no, I want the most badass shit that's out here.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to use it.
Now there are there is a place for, carbon steel, stainless steel, cast iron, and nonstick. Sometimes you see people kind of shit on nonstick. Nonstick has a place in the kitchen. A lot of things I cook with nonstick.
I cook a lot with nonstick. I actually like the hard anodized type stuff.
Yeah.
That's kind of what the majority of my cooking is done on, that hard anodized type stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's like 100% nonstick, but it's like pretty close. It's not like Teflon.
Right.
But anyway, I really like it, and you can get a damn good sear on it. And actually, some of this anodized stuff that's out there, it's rated for 500 degrees, so you can put it into the oven.
Yeah, which is,
to me, that's critical, because if you're doing like something like a coq au vin, or like something where you need to cook it on the stovetop but then transfer it into the oven, it's nice to have a piece of equipment that can take those temperatures.
Totally agree. That's a great point on, I will say some of the staples are just some of the pots and pans you need. I think if you can get a blender food processor, that's an essential thing at some point in the kitchen you want. I think a mixer is a great investment. It's just going to save you some effort, and in the long run, it's, like I said, a great investment. Trying to think of what some kitchen essentials might be, measuring cups, measuring spoons, things like that. But most people, let's be honest, if you're married, you probably got a lot of this on your wedding list.
Yeah, definitely.
If
but
you're
if
not
you're in
married,
college, or something, or you're just newly graduated and getting into the workforce, you don't have a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
A good spatula, I'd say.
Can I tell you that I've had my spatula since our wedding gift? We've been married 25 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Still works. I can't find better. I've looked and I went, there's nothing I like better. I bought a couple and I go, not as good.
I'm going to tell you a slightly... It's kind of a kitchen gadget that most people don't think of, but I freaking love it. Don't necessarily love cleaning it, but like I love this gadget. And you can avoid using a blender if you have one of these, for the most part, is an emulsion blender. Like a stick blender that you can put into a saucepan.
I use it for milkshakes.
They're freaking awesome.
Yeah. I'll use it tonight for my pizza sauce.
Oh,
because I do an uncooked sauce.
Those things rock.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great thing to
So
have.
is that your favorite kitchen gadget? If I were, you brought up a great point. I'm going, give me 2 or 3 kitchen gadgets that you like. That'd be one.
Probably the sous vide.
Sous vide is a good one.
Yeah, I mean, like I like the emulsion blender and the and the sous vide. I'd say those are kind of my gadgets that I really like.
I think those are good ones. I'm trying to think of.
I really like my fryer now. I got one of those kind of.
Oh, I remember you told me about. I haven't seen this yet, but I've heard about it.
It's nothing too complicated. I mean, it's looks like a size of a bread loaf or something like that, but it's got like a fry basket in there and a temperature thing gauge on there. And so, like,
what have you made so far in this?
Oh, just I've done fried fish, French fries, things like that. And
you know what I want this time of year coming up, football season. Boudin balls.
Oh, we can do that.
Yes,
we can do that.
Boudin balls would be.
Oh, that'd be sick.
Yeah,
but I think that okay, I'm sure like I have people ask me about this all the time. Like, why don't you have an air fryer? Here's the thing. Air fryers are fine if you want to be health conscious and whatever, and they can give you a semblance of what that fry is. There is no substitute for a deep fryer.
I agree, 100%. An air fryer, I think you said it well, gives you a sense of
Yeah.
frying,
Yeah.
but it's not like a deep fryer.
No.
We do have an air fryer. I like it. It's a gadget. We also have, which I think is a very cool tool. It used to be just the old pressure cooker. Nobody used them. The old lid came on a pot. And now they have the new Instapot pressure cookers.
We have one of those.
Which are great.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about some things that take 3 hours, you can get it done in 35 minutes.
That's pretty impressive.
It's pretty impressive. So it's a nice gadget to have.
I'd say another thing that I really like, and I think it's
Hey, sidebar before you say that. Our nose is really opened up on our OESF, and both are freaking delicious.
Oh, yeah.
It's really good. These 4 roses. I was afraid I was going to be disappointed with ours. When you compare it to something that's really, really good, sometimes this can just kind of tower over.
Yeah.
It's not. It's really, really good, but it's not making me think this one's not that good.
Very, very good, very different. I think this OESV kind of lends toward more the sweet notes. You get more of like this sweeter, the cherries, the a nice wood balance on the finish, though. I do like the oak on it. I really like this one. I would probably grade this a hair over ours, but ours has more of the vegetal notes, has more of the earthiness to it. It's an interesting drink.
Yeah, and it has that kind of minty kind of bite to it.
Yeah.
Along with, still being 20% rye. I like that on it.
Yeah.
Quite a bit, actually.
I do too. So my kitchen gadget that I really have used a lot is the crock pot. And I know that sounds like you're just going to throw something in there and it's going to be terrible, or it's going to be just okay. I can tell you when I do a standard pot roast, that's the only way I cook it.
Really?
And the reason I do it that way is I'll get a nice sear on it, and make sure that you get a sear on a piece of meat. It's highly critical.
Absolutely.
Highly critical. But once I get the meat seared, the crock pot is a great way to cook one of those, and it's a set and forget it type of deal.
And the theory behind searing is to lock it in so as it cooks, those juices don't escape. You're kind of putting that crust on the meat to kind of keep it moist and juicy inside.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think crock pot's a great one. And I think that's for weekday foods. I mean, to be able to leave for work in the morning and put it on low and know it's going to take 8 or 9 hours to finish, to come home to have a one-pot meal, whether it's a pot roast with carrots and potatoes and all. Crock pots are a great thing to get into.
I mean, it's not a bad investment for you can make pulled pork. It's not the same as putting it on a smoker, but it's not bad. You can do I've done ribs in the crock pot before.
Done pork in there. But look, if you're going to do a pulled pork in a crock pot, typically you're going to make sandwiches. It's going to be a barbecue sandwich, so you don't have to have that smoke flavor is nice.
Yeah.
But to make a nice pulled pork with have 3 or 4 different barbecue flavors out, can mix it in a bowl, put it on a sandwich, some coleslaw, still a solid option.
Oh yeah, I mean you can make a lot of stews and soups in there. You can do to me it's a great thing to have for a party because you can do
You're getting closer to what I was going to say.
We've mentioned this in a previous episode, but the meatballs.
Yeah.
Doing
that episode's not out yet.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
But I'm assuming that you're going to release it this week.
This week.
Okay, so there you go.
It's out now.
Yeah, it's going to be out now.
Good point.
So doing the meatballs, I think is really good. Queso is badass there.
I was getting ready to go football season.
I mean,
any kind of dip, dip,
spinach dip, something like that.
Creamy kind of dips and stuff.
I mean, they're great in a crock pot.
Little smokies that you're going to put in some barbecue sauce.
I forgot about that in our episode, and I should have freaking mentioned it. The little smokies in the barbecue
cover it now
sauce.
when they hear this one.
Yeah.
Little smokies a good one.
Yeah,
football food.
But I think crock pots are not don't knock on the crock pot. It's just it's a useful tool.
Look, if there's a way for you to eat a good meal at home, and we're kind of getting off on, we're talking more about cooking at home. I was thinking more about, parties and stuff, but cooking at home, if you can have a good meal at home, you don't have to come home after work and order. Crock pots are a great way to help you. I mean, I have a whole cookbook on crock pot meals. so that you could change it up and do, you know, I mean, it's just sky's the limit.
Oh yeah, I'm like the thing I like about the crock pot.
This is almost becoming the crock pot episode.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the key is don't make cooking a burden. Make it something fun.
Yeah.
And if fun means you don't have that much time to do a lot of preparation, but you still get to have a badass meal, then there's nothing wrong with that, right? And my thing on the crock pot is that a lot of people are working from home these days, you know, and I'm not, but a lot of people are. Still, you put something on at noon, dinner time, it's ready.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you have options with a crock pot. Most of them have a low and a high.
Yeah.
You know, or some variation in temperature where you can control how quickly you want that done. So if you're working all day, you put it on low. If you go, man, I got home at noon and I want to put something in, I'm going to put it in for 6 hours and get it done on high for a little, you know, whatever. So you have options with a crock pot, which makes it nice. But
I mean, like, honestly, doing a roast like in a crock pot and then mashed potatoes are easy. I mean, mashed potatoes, the only thing that sucks about mashed potatoes is you have to cook the potatoes for a long time, you know. But relatively speaking, you cut them up smaller, you're gonna
cook them quicker,
and that or whatever. Pot roast and
immersion blender to make them smooth.
Oh, yeah, there you go. But pot roast and mashed potatoes. Is anybody going to be not pleased with that meal?
I'm hearing sandwich the next day.
Hell yeah, you are.
I mean.
But like another meal that you could make like ahead of time is like a shepherd's pie. You could actually make that and just put the mashed potatoes on top, and then when you get home, pop it into the oven. Done.
Yeah.
Chili is another thing that's great in like a slow cooker.
We're getting into the soup and stew season when we start heading into fall. So just, you know, heads up, there will be an episode coming for soups and stews.
Absolutely.
Some of my favorite things to eat, you know.
I can't wait to have that episode because I'm going to cook a specific soup for you that you've had from me before.
I know what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it. We'll reveal it on that episode.
Pretty good, though.
People haven't heard episodes where you've talked about it. Not pretty good. It's
damn good. Yeah,
it's damn good.
So anyway, I guess my point.
But even with a group, a crock pot meal with a group is fine.
Of course it is.
Don't let anybody tell you because you're hosting an event at your house and you're cooking the meal in a crock pot that how dare you. That's perfectly fine. And if they're that freaking snobby, screw them. Don't invite them over next time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, give me a break, dude. Like this is you can make top quality food in there.
Yeah, you're hosting, you're doing this, you're providing the food. Come and appreciate it because I can tell you what, you know, it should be pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
I only say should be because, you know, I don't know how you seasoned it or what you did.
But
it should be pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the crock pot's fault.
Man, I'll also put a plug in for smokers and the Traeger. It's an investment and all that kind of stuff. I mentioned Traeger, but
a guy who just bought a Traeger.
Yes, man, that thing is nice. I mean, the app is amazing on that thing. You can put something in there. Like we had a pulled pork not too long ago. We had a spatchcock chicken that we put in there. Like we did, you know, we've done all kinds of things, and it's just put it in there. Let it do its thing.
Hey, a pellet smoker is not a bad idea for having, you know, if it's in the budget, if you're an outside guy and you like to smoke and whatever. If you can get one, I don't own one yet. I say yet because it's kind of on my radar for maybe one. You know, I have a lot of cooking vessels outside.
We have a friend that could help you.
I don't want a Traeger.
Oh, okay.
So
you want an egg?
No, don't want an egg. Looking at a Pit Boss.
Oh, yeah. Those are nice. Yeah. Those are nice.
I'm going vertical because I have a flat top, a barbecue smoker, a pizza oven, and a regular grill. I don't need it to be all-in-one. I just need something that can smoke for me.
Yeah, that's good.
So a vertical would be a smaller footprint and be a solution for me not wanting to sit out back in 110-degree weather in August to smoke a brisket and some ribs. So
well, August is going to come to a close eventually.
I mean, if we're going to be honest, though, I just want to say this while I'm thinking about it. Sorry. The pellet smoker, the pellet grill, is kind of the crock pot of outdoor cooking.
It absolutely
I mean,
is.
it just kind of struck me that's kind of the crock pot of outdoor cooking, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you could say the Instapot is the simplification of like a braising in the oven.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pressure cooker.
It's a pressure cooker, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you can do short ribs, for example, which is a pretty elegant thing to do.
Yeah.
You can do short ribs in a pressure cooker, and it takes like 45 minutes.
Versus 4 hours.
Versus 4 hours in an oven.
Yeah.
Now, I will make the argument. I think the oven version is better than the pressure cooker version.
There's something to be said for letting meat tenderize on, kind of like cooking a brisket, low and slow is the term you hear.
With time.
With time, it just does something tenderizing those tendons and fat, muscles and stuff that need to break down. Time does that.
Yes. But if
there's shortcuts, but doesn't mean it's better.
No. But I will say it's definitely acceptable food. It's pretty good food.
Absolutely. I don't think anybody would say a word about it. So my point in bringing that up is anybody bitches about a crock pot, if they have a pellet grill, it's, you got no room to.
You've got the crock pot of outside.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, I think these are all kind of things that are.
I'm going to say for the kitchen, make sure you have a couple of good cutting boards.
Yep.
And get you 2 knives. Get you a decent chef's knife. You don't have to spend a lot of money on it. And get you kind of a paring boning knife, something that you can get in and do some cuts with. And other than that, you'd be fine. At some other point, you may want a serrated knife for breads and things, but, you don't need any more than 3 knives in your kitchen, quality knives in your kitchen. You can have more. There's room for more. You can have a cleaver and all these other things. You can have a filleting knife if you get into fish, whatever. But you don't need more than 3 knives.
No, not really.
Yeah,
not really. I like having a paring knife. That's just something that's that's nice. But yeah, I really need a chef's knife and a paring knife.
And if you want a serrated, for breads and stuff,
serrated is nice for bread.
Other than that,
I don't know that you really need anything else.
I can use my chef's knife for cutting any kind of vegetable or anything. I mean, even cutting out, seeds and veins and stuff. I mean,
I'll say one thing: a nice pair of kitchen shears is a good thing. Having some good scissors that can be useful.
Here's a tip for the kitchen: when you're cooking. Don't ever, ever, ever use jarred, minced garlic.
Yeah, don't do that.
That's got the least amount of garlic flavor of anything you can buy, and it's going to cost the most. If you want to buy the pre-peeled garlic, that's better. It's not the best.
It's usually what I do.
It has garlic flavor. The best is to buy heads of garlic, crack that baby, peel that baby, and mince up that baby. But garlic is one of those things. It's a lot of people like to cook with it, and some people think just buy the jar of minced. And I just want them to know the jar of minced, don't do it. It just has no garlic flavor. You're not going to get out of it what you want. So just a kitchen tip there.
Yeah, I'd say that. If you can chop your own vegetables, just do it.
Why would I pay $4 for a little thing of diced up, red bell peppers when I can buy one for $1 and dice it up myself?
Yeah.
And plus, it's kind of fun to work on your knife skills. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah.
You watch these chefy shows and you see how they're doing it and you're like, okay, I can learn to hold the knife and do these little, and learning the different cuts from a dice to a julienne to, all the different cuts with different vegetables and things.
Yeah, I like that. And doing you can use there's things like you can do use a mandolin to cut potatoes or something.
Mandolins are great, especially if you're gonna make homemade potato chips.
Yeah, those are nice to have. It's not completely necessary to have it, but because you can do a lot of things with just a chef knife, but. I'll
tell you what, for the cost of a mandolin,
it'll ease your life.
I mean, you can get a bougie mandolin for, $60-$70.
Yeah.
Mine is $10 at HEB.
Yeah.
And, if you're going to do something with cucumbers, you want to make homemade pickles, you want to make potatoes, you want to make some kind of scallop potatoes. For $10, it's a pretty good investment, pretty good thing to have in the drawer.
Here's another piece of equipment that I really like that I think that like a lot of people should have. I'm not really I'm not really exactly sure what the terminology is for it, but like you've got a baking pan. This is like it's like a wire mesh.
You're talking about a baking sheet. So you're talking about a cookie sheet. When you talk about a baking pan.
Yeah. I'm talking about a cookie sheet.
Yeah, cookie sheet.
Yeah, that. But there's the little
cooling rack that goes
cooling
inside.
rack. Okay, yeah. One of those for cooking anything in the oven on a sheet pan like that is very useful because
for meats especially.
Inevitably, that you're going to use a baking sheet, and you're going to have the bottom that is just soft, and it can't become crispy because there's no air underneath it for it to become crispy.
That's a great point.
So invest in one of those. They're cheap. Just get one of those because, like, even if you have to me, like reheating French fries, they're never as good. But like, if you are going to reheat something like that, put it on one of those because at least it'll get it crispy enough, to where it's a little bit better.
Yeah, and it's also a cooling rack if you're baking.
Yeah,
things come
good
out.
Good to have for like cookies and things like
Very
that.
Very versatile. But that's a great point. That's a good one to have. I think cookie sheets are something that we didn't mention that are good to have in the kitchen. But again, you're not going to have all these all at once. Maybe you do already, but
I think having one good sheet pan is nice to have that's non-stick. That you can that you can cook, you can bake cookies on, you can put various things on there, and it releases easy, and that's not going to set you back a lot. That's like $15 or something like that.
You've heard me say this. I'm going to say it again. Shop at Marshall's. Shop at TJ Maxx. You don't have to break the bank right now. All this high end. What's the
Sur La Table.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Williams Sonoma.
Yeah, you don't have
all
to
these
spend
kind of stuff.
You can get some pretty solid. I think about the enamel Dutch ovens I have. I bought them at Marshall's.
Yeah,
and I've got like a 5-quart and an 8-quart, and they're a beautiful thing. When we were talking about soups and stews, I think that's a cooking vessel that
Oh, those are awesome.
That is huge to have.
Yeah, those are badass. But to your point, like if you go buy it at like Le Creuset or like whatever,
$400.
They're like $400 a piece. Yeah, shop the Marshalls, shop the TJ Maxx. I don't even think we've ever bought a cutting board that wasn't from Marshalls or TJ Maxx.
That's where we buy. You know what? And you can also find decent knives there. For beginners.
Here's another really cool thing, and I this is getting into more of my geekness, which is I think organization is really important in the kitchen. So, like all of our spices, we have spice jars that have labels on there that we've created that are in easy pour spice jars. We don't just take all the stuff from the store and put it into it. We have it nice.
Well, now I feel bad.
Nice and organized. Sorry, we're really geeky like that, though.
I feel awful now.
But what I'll say, and this is something that goes to the Marshalls and the TJ Maxx thing, these storage containers for flour, sugar, brown sugar, things like that, God, they make your life so much easier.
That might be a future show, Pantry Essentials.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I mean, like,
what do you need in the pantry?
Another storage container things, man, I'm telling you, this is something you got to have in your life. Because, man, opening up a bag of flour every time, getting flour all over the place, God, that's so annoying.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's a very good point. I do want to touch on, we're talking about all the cooking, and we're going to tie this into hosting, like we were talking about.
Yeah.
Price per person, we all know it's less expensive to cook at home, even if you're paying for the meal because you're being the one hosting, you're getting everything. even that cost to cook for 6 or 8 people is typically less than going to a nice restaurant and paying for me and my wife when we start talking about drinks and things.
Yeah.
But touching on drinks and things, I mean, most of our friends are into wine and whiskeys and cocktails and different things. So when you get together, when we go out to eat dinner, food's one thing. The cost for alcohol is typically a lot more than what we're paying for the meals.
Yeah.
If I've got a $200 tab, my meal might be $60. I'm 140 in for cocktails and a bottle of wine or whatever it might be. So when you cook at home and you host at home, even if you're not huge into wine yet, but whatever it is you like to drink, alcohol, the savings from alcohol, especially wine, because it's marked up so much at restaurants. It's just, to me, it makes sense to be able to open bottles, share bottles at home with a good meal versus paying going out.
I'd even say cocktails are even more expensive.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'd say that is that a Manhattan, which is a great cocktail, something I
12
like
to $15, $12 to $17.
Yeah, it tastes. Might as well say $15. Good average, right? So, a bottle of vermouth, unless you want to go super fancy, which super fancy vermouth has its place. Let's say max is $30, 35, maybe $40 for, and you can go as cheap as $15. You can get a bottle of Old Forester Rye for $22, something like that. And then a bottle of bitters, maybe like $8, something like that.
$6 by $8, somewhere around there.
How many Manhattans can you make with that?
Oh yeah, a bunch,
a whole shitload.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, you can, like, I've done I've had parties where I've made bulk cocktails before, where you make like a lot of cocktail, and it's stuff that you can either put on ice, like an old fashioned or something like that. You make bulk cocktails. Margaritas is a good example. Things like that. That's going to cost you way less.
Oh yeah,
way less than a restaurant.
Yep.
I mean, wine, you might as well say 2.5 markup from retail. Pretty much is the standard.
Yeah. So if you're looking at a $40 bottle of wine, you're spending $120, a little more for that bottle at a restaurant.
Yeah.
Now, if you find a restaurant that you can get it for 70 or 80, that's a pretty good deal.
And there are some places we know that mark wine up.
You can find those, but it's a hidden gem. It's not the norm.
Right. So you're saving money on wine. You save money on cocktails. You definitely save money on whiskey because, I mean, you can get a pretty solid whiskey off the shelf that, let's just say like rare breed or something like that. Good whiskey.
Yep.
Bottle of that's $30.
$48 now.
It's a $48.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately,
okay. Well, less than $50.
Less than $50.
Less than $50. How many pours is in a
25 ounces? So you're going to get about 11 pours out of it.
Okay.
Pours.
If you go to a restaurant, that's going to be a $12 to $15 pour.
Yep. Totally agree. So when you start talking, just from the cost standpoint, it's huge. But it gets back to the most important thing for me is the quality time you have with friends or family when you host these kind of dinners at your house. Because again, it gets back to when you show up, say you tell everybody to show up at 6, you're going to eat at 7. People usually hang around until 10:30, 11, 11:30. And all of that time is just either as a group, hanging out, conversing, telling stories, laughing. Or sometimes, it'll get split at the front end when maybe you're finishing up cooking and you got the guys in the kitchen drinking some bourbons. The ladies are out back drinking a wine or in the dining room drinking a wine. And then you all come together, have dinner and then you kind of break. And I just love those nights. I mean, just being able to visit and hang out. And
I mean, sometimes you're in the back, in your back patios singing karaoke. You're getting calls
Got
from
the
the
fire
neighbors.
going,
You know,
police show up.
Yeah, it's just great.
You give them a pour. They turn off their sirens. They
and then
stay
they just
for
come
a while.
hang out.
They
You
come
know,
hang
whatever,
out.
whatever. You know, that there's lots of things that can happen.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
That's the most important part of all of food and spirits and wine is the people you share it with and enjoy it with.
Absolutely. No, I mean, you know, I like going to restaurants because I like going to restaurants. I like
Same.
You know,
But when I go to a restaurant, you tell me if you're different. It's usually you and Yana, or it's me and Sandra, maybe one other couple.
Yeah,
It's not a group.
it's not. It's
So
not.
the restaurants to me are for me and my wife want to go out and have a dinner.
A night on the town.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of
I'm
stuff.
saying when you want to get together with friends, do it at home.
Now, we should have, and this should coincide with.
This is good.
It's really good. This should really coincide with the Valentine's season, but we should have a date night meal episode
For cooking at home,
for cooking at home.
that's an interesting one. We might have to get a couple other guys on and see what would everybody's date night meal be.
Maybe we do a top 5 on it.
Top 5 date night meals. I like that.
Something like that might be fun.
I mean, how bougie can you go? But, you know, also sometimes simple can be elevated.
Hey, look, you can go as simple or as elevated as you want.
Yeah, but we're going to be judged on our top 5, so.
So you got to go a little
bit
more
bougie.
Yeah, a little
bit
bougie.
elevated.
Yeah.
Something, you know, a simple meal and then elevated.
Man, if my wife liked caviar, I'd be like all over the caviar.
Man, I used to like caviar, but the last few times I've had it, it just.
You didn't have good shit.
Yes, I did. Michael Canfield shit.
And what?
Yeah, I had a reaction. Something was going on last 2 times, and so I don't know if something's changed or if it was that particular
Brand of caviar or something like that?
But I'm scared to try it again.
Oh,
the
man,
reactions
that's a
weren't
shit.
good.
Oh, my gosh, I love it so
I know,
much.
I did too for a while. Yeah.
That's amazing.
No, it's not.
Not for you. Not for you. Yeah, so, I think that's a good episode in the future. But I guess the point of this whole episode is cook at home. Be adventurous. Get outside of your comfort zone. You know, it's fun to experiment cooking really difficult things.
It is. But it's not hard. Difficult meaning technique.
Technique or steps or
Yeah,
whatever.
precision,
You know, I mean, maybe,
timing.
another thing you can say is like, you know, you're making pizza tonight, right?
Yeah. Made the dough yesterday. Made the biga a couple days ago.
So making the dough isn't all that hard. It's the time aspect.
Yes.
You have to let it rise, then you have to let it proof, and then, you know, all those
Well,
kind
making the biga or the Polish the day before, you're
Yeah.
going to even make the dough, you know, to have that pre-fermented.
So there's
starter.
certain things that are, you know, that are time consuming, but
Yeah.
the actual making of the ingredient really isn't,
It's not hard.
It's not that hard.
Again, here's a tip for you in a kitchen. Get a scale that goes to grams and tenths of grams, so you know exactly where you're at.
Metric? You go metric?
You have to in baking and cooking. Grams are so much. I mean, what's a cup? If you did a cup of sugar and I did a cup of sugar and we weighed them both in grams, are we going to be the same?
Probably not.
Probably not. But if we know it's 7 grams of yeast to 600 grams of flour. Now, that's why I say precision in some cooking. You know, the Europeans and everybody who uses grams for baking, not cups and tablespoons and stuff. I have, over the last couple of years, shifted to that metric.
Yeah.
And the results they're undisputed. They are way, way better using grams.
I whether it's metric or English, weight measurement.
Weights, ounces, but most things are grams.
Right. So weight measurement is what's key.
Yes.
Because volumetric measurement is not an accurate thing. In my business, that, you know, my normal life, I have to deal with this all the time. And people say, "Oh man, you know, like you know, we didn't get enough material. It's not up to this particular fill line." And you're like, "No, we measure everything by weight."
Yep.
So yeah, we have
You
scales.
got what you're supposed to get.
You got what you were supposed to get.
Yep. That's exactly right. So a scale in the kitchen, I think, is a
very
gadget
useful
that
tool.
yeah, very, very useful, especially if you're going to do any kind of baking, where you're putting ingredients in and measurements, mixing milks or whatever, if there's a measurement to it, the grams, the weight, to your point, is way more important than a cup or a tablespoon or a teaspoon.
Final little point, final little thing that I like to advise people on. When you have a mixing bowl, get a mixing bowl that's stainless steel, but get a mixing bowl that has a rubber bottom to it. Because, you can obviously put a towel under things and that kind of stuff, but like just having that grip, it's to where it's not moving around a lot. I think that's really
good point.
It's a game changer.
It's another good tip. Yep. Been getting a lot of tips tonight.
That's what she said.
Yeah. Woo.
At some point, she's going to be upset.
Yeah, she is going to be upset. Yeah.
That was a fun discussion. I think it's something near and dear to me and you.
Yep.
We absolutely enjoy. And I think in today's world, cooking for a guy, and again, I know you're from the South. You say your dads and granddads all cooked. For me, men didn't cook so much growing up. It was, it was the backyard cooking. But in today's world, you mentioned it with Food Network and things, cooking's cool.
Cooking's very cool.
And if you're a younger guy, in your early 20s, mid-20s, being able to cook for a lady is a very important skill and something that I think would impress her if you can have her over and cook a good meal for somebody. Whether it's romantically or just friends over to cook, I think the skill of cooking is a very good, cool, and necessary skill to have.
Well, I think significant others see that men are cooking a lot more, and if you're like my wife, she's like, "Oh yeah, Gordon Ramsay's like a sexy dude." Like, okay, cool. Like I could be like Gordon Ramsay.
I thought you were going to say, and if you're like my wife, she's over in the corner with a glass of wine going, "Hurry up, honey." That's how my wife is. Now, you go ahead and cook. Pour me, what wine do you want to open?
I'll say this. My wife is a damn good cook, so I can't, I can't say that she's not as good as I am, if not better. Her knife skills are incredible.
Sandra's pretty good cook, too. I just don't let her. That's my fault. I hog the kitchen. I'm a kitchen hog, dude.
You gotta let go some. You gotta let go, let her take charge some.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it an effort.
I bet she makes better tacos than you do.
There's no doubt. When it comes to the Hispanic side of cooking, flautas and tacos and enchiladas and gorditas and
I bet she's rolling the kitchen there.
Yeah, no question. And that's when I move the hell out of the way.
Yeah, that's good.
I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses.
There you go.
Well, that was a fun episode, man.
Yeah, dude. Enjoyed the pizza making tonight. That sounds amazing. I wish I could savor that.
I wish you guys could too, but it'll be coming soon.
Yeah, for sure.
Coming soon. Thanks, everybody, for listening to this episode of Food, Wine, and Whiskey. And until our next episode, enjoy your next pour. Maybe there's 4 roses.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Cheers, everybody.